Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Soul Health Mentor Podcast. In this week's episode, I am so super excited to talk about scalar energy with Tom Paladino. Hello, Tom. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Nadia. Thank you.
And I am so looking forward to this because this is definitely cutting edge. I don't understand all of it, but I'm excited to talk about it because I was able to experience it these past 20 days. So, how would you explain scalar energy to
Yeah,
someone that has never heard of it?
it's very simple. Scalar energies from the sun and the stars. These instruments are scalar energy instruments that capture that energy from the sun and the stars. So we're not working with electricity. We're working with a different spectrum of energy, scalar energy, which is not Newtonian physics. It's a new branch of physics.
And for those of you listening in the podcast, we are also airing this on YouTube, and you'll actually be able to see a demonstration with what Tom was just talking about. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I love that you really simplified it. Energy from the stars, and it's not electricity, it is something else. And me personally, when I heard of your work, I was just like, okay, I'm able to experience this. Let me see and let me feel. And as someone that I identify as being like highly energetically sensitive and intuitive, and I trust my body, and I can just tell you that I felt it immediately, and I am blown away by it because I don't know how it works, just like I don't know how electricity works. I flip the switch and my electricity works. I don't understand it, but it works. So I was experiencing the fundamental program where it's helping me with chakra balancing, it's helping me with nutrients, it's helping me with pathogens. And I think the pathogen part is what I have felt most. I knew I was aching all over. My body was aching all over. And I was trying to change my diet and I was trying to do these things. And I couldn't do it. And 20 days on the program, I'm feeling a huge difference.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Uh,
And what do you usually love to share about scalar energy?
Well, if I'm working with instruments like this, first of all, I'm working with the fundamental laws of nature, which is energy, light. And the light I'm working with is not electromagnetic, it's the pure light of the sun and the stars. It really is a divine energy. So, with that in mind, you don't have the negative consequences that you have with electricity. I don't work with frequencies, I don't work with electrical frequencies. I work with actually, it's a pulsation of light from the sun and the stars, entirely different. Now, because of that, these are informational systems, and there's no physical character to my work. These are non physical pulses of light. How's that? Now, with that in mind, nothing can go wrong. I'm working with information from the sun and the stars. There's no physical component to my work. Hence, there's no physical negative side effect.
Yes.
When you work with information, you cannot have a chemical reaction. You can have an informational reaction, you cannot have a chemical reaction. So my work is safe and guaranteed. It's guaranteed on account of the fact that I work with the forces of nature.
It is.
Now, behind me are scalar energy instruments, and we'll demonstrate how these instruments work. Now, I want to make it clear to your audience, when I work with people with these instruments, I work with photographs. This is my photograph. Nadia sent me her photograph. I place a person's photograph inside the instrument. Nadia did not come to my laboratory. She sent her photograph to my laboratory. She emailed me her photograph. So in this type of science, where you, if you will, transcend time and space, your photograph represents you. It's your bilocated version. I don't work with people in the flesh. I work with photographs by way of information. So it's entirely new science. This by no means is, again, Newtonian science. I do not practice Western medicine. It's a new emerging science. Now, my photograph is now in a force field of scalar energy. It's not an electromagnetic force field, it's a scalar energy force field. That's my photograph. And I'm going to demonstrate how powerful that force field is. I'm going to hold in my hand light bulbs. These are fluorescent light bulbs. They're still in their factory packaging. When I place this light bulb close to the instrument, it will illuminate. There's so much energy, the light bulb illuminates.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's the force field of scalar energy. There's so much energy coming off this instrument, it will light up a light bulb.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Again, if you watch the YouTube video, you'll be able to see the light. I'm seeing it right now. That is a very, very powerful demonstration. And what I wanted to say at this point, my dad was totally into free energy. He was a machine engineer. In German, it's Maschinenbauingenieur, which I don't know the English version, but he was able to build machines. And I think he would have loved this conversation and he would have understood it probably way better than me. I do know from your work and having signed up for the experience and really knowing scalar energy through my response to it. Tell us more about Tesla.
A brilliant mind led by God. Nikola Tesla was the first man to develop scalar energy instruments. And Tesla could illuminate light bulbs at a distance. I only can do it locally. Tesla could illuminate light bulbs at a distance with his scalar energy instrument. So where are we going with this? This is free energy from the sun and the stars. This is the early prototype of the free energy from the sun and the stars. That's where we're going. This is where we're going to travel, people, in the future. The free energy of the sun and the stars. Hallelujah.
Mhm.
Imagine what that means to mankind. We're going to change the world with this energy.
Hey, it's what's needed. It's what's
Yes.
needed. What I love about our meeting and this interview is really that I had looked at different things. Like I just mentioned my dad, and my dad would talk about these things, and he was very much into the science and the new science and very much understanding of it way more than me. But I heard of it, and then I also read books that talk about light energy, that talk about, eating plants and eating vegetables for the light that is in it because it's information. And now, not being able to do that in everyday life and trying and it being so hard because all of our lives are so busy, but then to learn of your scalar energy technology and to experience it in my body, to me is just absolutely mind boggling. And receiving emails from you every day, just sharing testimonials and sharing what people have said and sharing about this technology, it was so helpful. And I wanted to let you know that we actually find ourselves in a very challenging situation right now of moving. And everybody knows moving can be very stressful. For us, it was more stressful because we're moving another country. I honestly don't think I would have been this calm if it wasn't for the chakra balancing that I experienced. And you had talked about that in the emails. And I wanted to ask you, how long have you been doing this work?
In theory, 50 years. In practice, 30.
Oh, that's a very long time. And
Yes,
when you
my life.
yes, when you say in theory 50, what do you mean?
In theory, 50, because 50 years ago, I started reading about Nikola Tesla when I was a teenager. And I knew that he had discovered free energy. I could tell by his instruments and by the fact, well, later in his life, he wasn't using wires and he did not need a power station. So if you don't need wires, you don't need a power station. Obviously, you're accessing the free energy of the universe. That's kind of obvious. Anyway, long story short, it was Tesla. I said, Tesla did it. And the world is sleepwalking. The world needs to pay attention to free energy. This is a free energy device. Now,
Mhm.
I want to make this clear. When I'm working with this energy, again, I'm outside of the electromagnetic spectrum. This is another dimension. This is another reality. And this reality allows us to have free energy from the sun and the stars. Electricity and magnetism are limited. Free energy from the sun and stars is unlimited. Scalar energy will answer many of our problems moving forward.
That is good news. That is absolutely good news. And what was important for me in this episode and in this interview was to really talk about the science, and that's fascinating, but also talk about the practical application of it. And the practical application of it is so easy. It literally takes you, the listener, to have your photo like you've got an online portal, right, where you can upload the photo, and you also have a free trial for people to try this, right?
That's correct. This is new. It's groundbreaking. My discoveries are groundbreaking. So, how do I introduce this? By nice and open minded people like you, Nadia. I need to get the message out. I don't attach myself to a university. This is so groundbreaking. This is so cutting edge that nobody's been able to duplicate my results yet. So, thank you for the audience. And then, in order to prove it to people, we give away 15 days of sessions. You're going to email us your photograph, and you can include your family members, and why not throw in photographs of your pets? And in so doing, we'll see how you feel. You judge the, the effectiveness of these sessions. And
Mhm.
that's how I get the message out, one person at a time, one podcast at a time.
Yes, and I am definitely a fan. I was excited to try. I'll be honest with you, my mind, was going places like, what is this? Okay, I'll just try. And I trust my body very much. I trust my body because my body was already giving me signs of aches and pains and not feeling good. And I could feel and sense that my digestive tract wasn't taking up nutrients the way it needed to. And all of that resolved so quickly in the sense that I feel energized, I'm eating better, my habitual changes that I wanted to make feel easier now. It feels easier to, I can't explain it. So, this is the part where it does take an open mind and an open heart, and it's an absolute gift to try this for 14 days, 15 days, and then just have your own body wisdom tell you, hey, this is changing how I feel. And I want to come back to what you said. So, theoretically, for 50 years, you started studying it as a teenager, which I love. I love so many of us are called into our purpose and our calling as teenagers. And sometimes we forget about it because life will condition us a certain way. But I love that you pursued it. What does it mean when you say you're doing it for 30 years? What does
Yeah.
that mean?
Yeah. In practice, I've had the ability to work with scalar energy instruments for 30 years now. And I've learned a lot by practice. You have to have this hands on approach.
Mhm.
Again, this is not taught by academia. Now, I'm going to explain to the audience how my hands on approach and how learning by doing has benefited the world. I'm going to hold in my hand a photograph of a bacterium. This is Streptococcus mutans. It's been associated with gum disease,
Mhm.
but it can cause other types of infection. How do I work with these instruments? Through photographs. I place my photograph inside the instrument, side by side a photograph of Streptococcus mutans. Now, what am I getting at? The energy from Streptococcus mutans shares with my photograph. So this is again an informational process, it's not chemical. I download the information of strep mutans into my quantum field. If I have Streptococcus mutans in my quantum field, this process will not only identify Streptococcus mutans, but will destroy it, eradicate it, bring the bacterium to a state of chaos. Okay, so we enter into the quantum field. My photograph is no longer in the electromagnetic field, it's in the quantum field. Then I place this photograph of Streptococcus mutans in the quantum field. So the two energies, the two information systems, my information is connecting with Streptococcus mutans. They're sharing information. And this is how the information field, this is how the force field works. The force field of strep mutants is sharing with my force field as a person. If I have in my force field, by way of information, if I have Streptococcus mutants, that process will break apart, will destroy Streptococcus mutants.
This is fascinating. And this is the part where I'm fascinated to hear about the quantum field. I'm fascinated to hear about information. I've heard about it in the past through my dad. This is the part where my dad was very much into that. I don't have the actual knowledge of how it works, but I do have the openness because it's also what my dad taught me to just be open to things and to just try it. And now that I hear you explain it, even though I don't know exactly how it works, it kind of just makes sense. I can't even explain why it would make sense. This is the part in me that is a beginner, right? A beginner learning this. The part that I loved about the nutrition program, because this is something I learned as I'm going through it, that because it's on an information basis in a quantum field, it's light energy and light nutrition. And that I had read books about. And I was like, oh my gosh. So tell us more about the nutrition program or the
Okay.
nourishment program.
Okay. All right. Now, keep in mind, all of my work is with photographs. Why? My photograph is a source of light. This photograph of riboflavin is a source of light. I don't work with chemicals. I never work with chemicals. Chemicals are passe. There's a better way, an easier way. I work with photographs which are force fields. Now, if I take this photograph of riboflavin and place it close to my photograph in the instrument, the energy of riboflavin will download into my force field. If I place this photograph of riboflavin side by side my photograph, then my quantum dimension will start creating riboflavin. I
Mhm.
don't have to eat, ingest, drink something to enjoy riboflavin. I deliver riboflavin by light, by energy. It's not a protein shake. I don't work with food, I work with light. Now, once again, I place my photograph in the quantum field. I'm enjoying scalar energy. I'm no longer in an electromagnetic force field. I place the photograph of riboflavin side by side my photograph. So the energy of riboflavin is communicating with my photograph. This is how we work in the quantum field. To give you an analogy, we're having a conversation through our computers. Your image is in my computer. My image is in your computer. Obviously, Nadia is not physically present in my laboratory. We're having a computer discussion by Zoom.
Yeah.
Well, if Nadia would send me her photograph, Nadia's not in my laboratory. It's her image, just like her image on a computer screen.
Mhm.
And the two force fields communicate. We are two force fields. We're communicating by way of Zoom, and the photograph and of riboflavin communicates with my photograph. It's
Yes.
that simple.
Yes. Now that I've experienced your work, I was kind of reflecting on I talk about soul health, and obviously that's a word that is made up. It's not something that you would find in a dictionary. But the best way for me to explain soul health is just to explain our multidimensionality, that we have a physical body, but we also have a mind and a heart and emotions. And we have a light body, which is our soul, and that is the quantum field. And I realized, oh my goodness, this is so perfect for Soul Health Mentor podcast and really letting the listeners know that if you've tried to be healthier, to eat healthier, if you're having aches and pains in your body like I did, and you want to have extra support, I really, really invite you to open your mind. The tagline of Soul Health Mentor podcast is also out of your mind and into your heart. So for me is open your mind, open your heart, and give this a try because it might sound this is what my first impression was like, what is this? I don't know what this is, but I'm going to give it a try. And now that I tried, it is very, very hard to explain. But I know you have a lot of testimonials. So, since you've been doing this work for 30 years, since when have you been getting these testimonials and actually capturing them?
From day one.
Oh,
From day one.
so you,
These, yeah, easily stated from day one. Why? I'm working with the forces of nature. And even 30 years ago, I was able to eradicate pathogens viruses, bacteria, etc.
Yes.
So I've simply increased the power of the instruments, and now this instrument can easily work with 1 million photographs at a time.
Wow.
I can miniaturize these photographs now, and I could place in the instrument 1 million photographs at a time. So you see that this is going to be a global healing ministry.
Yes.
We can
Yes.
work with 1 million, 2 million photographs simultaneously.
Oh my gosh, this is definitely it's the new solutions that
Yes,
our
it
world
is.
needs.
Yes,
And
it is.
you had mentioned pathogens, and I wanted to actually touch base on that because it was three protocols: the chakra balancing, the nutrients, and the pathogens. And this is something that I noticed moving here from Germany. In Germany, there are chemicals that are banned. They are not allowed to be used. And then you come to the States and they
Right.
use them very freely. And I could feel it in my body. I could feel how there was toxins in there, but I didn't know how to get them out. So when you talked about the bacteria earlier on, is that similar to the pathogen cleanse?
Correct. Yes, yes. And actually, I'm also working with some uh, 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 chemicals, some commercially available chemicals. Why? We need to also break down chemicals, harmful chemicals that we're assaulted by on a daily basis. I agree with you. In many ways, Europe is much further ahead than the United States. There are some chemicals that, such as Roundup, that have been banned by certain countries. Well, I don't know why we're still selling it here. It causes birth defects. It causes cancer. This is what various scientific groups have proven. Well, it all stands to reason. Why not protect the people?
Yes. What is your experience? Because this is me personally interested. So when I noticed that I'm like my body is having to deal with toxins it never had to deal with, it's having to deal with bad food. I could taste it in the food that it didn't taste the way it tastes in Europe, which also it felt it didn't have the nutrients. Even if I'm eating it, it doesn't have the nutrients I need. I could taste it, I could feel it. And does that affect? So, this was my train of thought because this is what I've watched. So, I've watched the culture of junk food, which is America, because Germany has, I think, like five junk food places, and it's McDonald's and Burger King, which are American, Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is American. And the other, there's one German one I can think of, and Pizza Hut. So we've got four American junk food places, and one that I remember is German. And and it's very normal here that people eat it for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. There's no nutrients in it. Would you think, this is me asking you of your personal opinion, does that affect, how does that affect humans?
You're right. Let's just face it. Let's be blunt. We're eating junk food, and sometimes we don't know it. And sadly, for profit, many of the food processors would much rather make money than leave what's in food to be our benefit. So we realize there's dyes, there's certain chemicals, preservatives in our food, pesticides make it to our food table. What do I like about scalar energy? I can take a photograph of a nutrient and download it into every quantum cell, into all of our informational force field, if you will. And that way I can overcome the bad effects of a tainted and polluted food supply.
Yeah.
If people really did their homework, you would see how our food lacks nutrition. Our soil has been demineralized. Many of the farm animals are filled with antibiotics and hormones. Much of the food that we eat today has been laced with preservatives and dyes and chemicals, and you have this ongoing assault, and we're not eating food, we're eating some type of chemical preparation. It's mind-boggling what's going on today.
Mm-hmm. And you just mentioned something, and I'm so grateful you shared that in the way you did. Because me, as a European that hasn't lived here all her life, literally, it's been 8 years in the States, feeling so clearly how my body is deteriorating because I had a contrast, right? I knew what my body felt like in Germany, and then you come here and it starts feeling different. and I'm looking for solutions, and I'm looking for solutions, and I'm looking for solutions, and I'm doing all the things you get told, like I'm eating the vegetables, I'm trying, right? But I'm not satisfied. My body is not satisfied because there's nothing in there. And then what do? I ended up eating the junk food because that's all that's available. And it feels terrible to think that there isn't a solution. And then you come into my world. And then I meet you, and then we organize this podcast interview. I get to experience, I get to try your work. And I'm definitely a fan now. And it feels like a prayer answered. And I just have to say that. And I just wanted to let you know it feels like a prayer answered because finally I feel like I can give my body what it needs with a solution that the food and the things
Right.
that I've tried couldn't give me. And then I even tried supplementation. And if my gut can't work with what it has, the supplementation doesn't work either. Very important. I am so glad to have you here. And I feel like we've covered a lot in a very short amount of
We
time.
have, we have.
And I just wanted to, one more heartfelt invitation. Would you let the listeners know where they can check you out and see the trial?
Yeah, once again, people, I want you to prove this to yourself. What I'm doing is new, different. My discoveries are groundbreaking. Nobody has duplicated my results. So, how do I prove this? You're going to prove it to yourself. Visit the website, scalarlight.com, SCALAR light, LIGHT, scalarlight.com. Upload your photographs. All we need is a facial photograph. That's all Nadia had to do. She sent me photographs of her entire family, and you could judge by her testimony, it made a difference. She has now witnessed an improvement in her physical, mental constitution. Well, try it for yourself. Scalarlight.com. Anybody in the world can access the website. Anybody in the world can upload their facial photographs. It's that simple.
I
It's
love
free.
that. Yes, I love that you mentioned family because this is actually, you just reminded me. So I also sent a picture of our pet, and I wanted to let you know what I've been noticing in our pet. He is definitely more playful. He has way more energy. It's a little bit where it's hard to keep up with him. So I've definitely seen a change in him as well. Teddy is our pooch, our dog. So that was very, very interesting to witness as well, to see
Good.
how his energy changed and how he feels way more lively and way more playful.
And that goes to show you that's not the placebo effect. A dog, a cat does not know that they're being treated.
Correct, correct. Thank you so much for your time today. And for the listeners, once again, you will also find the video on YouTube if you want to see the demonstration that Tom shared with us. And thank you all. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. My pleasure.